Chase at the 40. Look at that move. Look at Chase go. Oh, my goodness. What a gear.
He comes down to this in his car end zone. Intercepted.
McPherson. And Cincinnati is heading to the Super Bowl.
Toss here. Mixon's going to throw. Open man. Caught. Higgins touchdown.
Drives touchdown. Joe Burrow has his first rushing touchdown of the season.
Hooday, Bengal fans. He is Maan. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse, the heartbeat of our Cincinnati Bengals. Maan, the offseason has officially started. The Super Bowl just ended about 10 minutes ago. And what another fiasco. 2 Super Bowls in a row that the referees feel like they have to make it about them in the last 2 minutes of the game. The Logan Wilson call last year. This year, the holding penalty again. I mean, the NFL, they've got to do something about this. It is an absolute fiasco. And again, Eagle fans, we know how you feel because the refs basically gave the Chiefs the game last 2 weeks against us and now didn't help the cause once again against the Eagles. Mon, the NFL and the referees definitely not helping that narrative that is going around town that the NFL games maybe a little bit closer to WWE. What do you think, Mon?
Jake, it was one of the best Super Bowls I have watched in years. It was a great, phenomenal football game. Just like last year's Super Bowl, for 57, 58 minutes, the referees were letting them play. Then all of a sudden, they come up with a ticky-tack holding call to basically ice the game. Listen, it was a questionable call and just the inconsistency. Jake, if you remember in the first quarter, Jalen Hurts took off running. Number 20, Reed, the guy that talks a big game, for the safety for the Chiefs, literally hit him with the top of his helmet and his face mask out of bounds. No flag. They let him play.
It's crazy.
There was multiple potential holds, block in the back of the Pacheco run. I mean, there's penalties by both teams that the refs just didn't throw the flag, and they decide to throw that with 2 minutes left. Oh, man, talk about it's just. I agree with the announcer on Fox. He was beside himself. He goes, "How can you throw that flag with 2 minutes left in a Super Bowl?"
Well, last year against Logan Wilson, same thing. You let these guys play the entire game, and you wait till the last 2 minutes to throw a flag like that. I mean, it's just it's taking away from, like you said, another great Super Bowl. Last year's Super Bowl, same thing. And again, the Bengals had chances, to win last year. But the point is not that. The point is you cannot make those kind of calls at the end of that kind of game. You got to let the players decide the game, not the referees. And it wasn't like it was a blatant call. I mean, it was so ticky-tack like Logan Wilson's last year. Mona, I walked into a restaurant a couple days ago, and NFL Network was re-showing our Super Bowl last year. And, of course, I walked in with like the last 3 minutes left of the game. Almost walked out of the restaurant, but, what am I going to do? I had the family with me. So I sat there and watched that disaster. And once again, you watch that Logan Wilson call last year. What a horrible, horrible call. I mean, terrible. Absolutely terrible. And once again, this year, like you said, 57 minutes of football, of really good football. And you throw that flag at that moment.
Jake, listen to the Chiefs fans that watch this show, because we got a bunch of comments on last week's show during the live feed. There were potential penalties by the Eagles that the refs decided not to throw the flag. They were letting these guys play. Then all of a sudden, 2.5 minutes left in the game, and you know what? This guy decides to throw the flag. It was a questionable call. It was ridiculous, and it's a shame because
it gave the Chiefs the Super Bowl. I mean, again, just like last year, we got the ball back with a little bit more time than the Eagles did, but that penalty against Logan Wilson, it gave the Rams a chance to win the Super Bowl. You can't do that. If you are a referee, you cannot do that. You cannot put the game in your hands. You just can't. Now, if it's a blatant call where, he tackles the receiver, then I get that. I completely get that. But 2 Super Bowls in a row now, the referees decide this football game, and you just can't do that. The NFL has got to make it stop. And you could tell when the announcers tonight, when they went over to what's the guy, Gene? Isn't it
Yeah,
Gene?
no, it's not Gene. Gene Steratore is on CBS. This is the director of officiating. I forget his name.
Yeah.
Used to be the director, and
so they send it to him, and they're like, what about that? And you could tell he did not agree with the call, but he tried to work his way around it. You could tell, Maan. You could tell that he did not agree with it. He really didn't even know what to say. But
he sort of stuck up for the refs a little bit, and then they showed the replay again, and then the color commentary, Olsen, he was like, no, he questioned it. He goes, you can't throw that flag on that penalty at this time in the Super Bowl. It cheated the viewers, and it cheated the Eagles with an opportunity for Jalen Hurts to come in with 2 minutes and do something with the ball with 2 timeouts remaining. I just, listen, Mahomes, the Chiefs, they turned it on in the second half. Great effort by them. I call BS on the ankle. I'm sorry. His ankle was
he's not hurt.
Severe.
He's not hurt.
No,
he's not hurt.
And I'm glad he wasn't.
Yeah.
But he's basically played himself into a first ballot Hall of Famer. 3 Super Bowls in 5 years, 2 Super Bowl victories. Hey, you have got to salute the guy. The guy, he speaks for himself. 5 straight AFC Championship games, 3 Super Bowls. Hats off. Enjoy.
Definitely give him an Academy Award too. So you can salute him all you want. Give him an Academy Award for the best actor of the year, because that is not a hurt ankle. You can hop around all you want to. I know you want to be the hero. And the NFL loves that storyline. They love the Chiefs. They love Andy Reid. They love Patrick Mahomes. And they got what they wanted. The NFL got what they wanted. But let's digress, because really, who cares? Who cares? We have an entire offseason to start preparing for, Maan. And I'll be honest with you, I'm glad the offseason has begun, just to get that sour taste out of our mouths from a couple of weeks ago. And really, not just that, Maan, but over these next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about our team MVPs. I think that's next week's show. So I'm really looking forward to that. We're going to go over our team MVPs and then start getting ready for free agency, which is only a couple weeks away, which is very exciting. You and I both think our Cincinnati Bengals are going to keep this in-house this year. A lot of free agents that the Bengals definitely want to come back. And that's going to lead us right into this week. And, during the media days and all this other stuff that's been going on for the Super Bowl, we've heard from Jamar Chase and we've heard from T. Higgins. And both of them have said very, very interesting and exciting things. T. Higgins, first Jamar Chase comes out and says, listen, I'm telling you guys right now, Joe Burrow wants to win, and he's going to make all this thing happen. Then T. Higgins comes out, and all these things that have been going on social media that T. Higgins, for some reason, T. Higgins is a Chicago Bear already. I mean, it's just ridiculous that, all this back and forth about T leaving and all this stuff. I have said it, Maan, for a year now. T. Higgins will be a Bengal for a long time, just like Jamar Chase and just like Joe Burrow. They're keeping the band together. I'm telling you, I've been saying it for a year. It is happening. T. Higgins made it very clear this week he wanted to be a Bengal. These guys, they just really enjoy being around each other. And I don't see – this is not going to be a situation like we saw with Mo Sanu, where, these other receivers that were really good. They wanted to go and be heroes on some other team, and they learned their lesson, right? Mosanu learned his lesson because he went and never won again, really, in his career. I just don't see that with this group. I don't see it with T. I don't see it with Jamar. These guys understand how good Joe Burrow is.
If anybody has followed the Cincinnati Bengals for years, they should know this. They have an affinity for cornerbacks and wide receivers. Even during the lost decade, Jake, the quarterbacks were highly paid, and the wide receivers were the top paid in football. Darnay Scott, Carl Pickens, they always opened up the checkbook and paid those guys. I agree with you. Burrow's going to get his money. That narrative for years, all the Bengals can't afford Burrow. They can't afford it, $500 million. He's going to sign a contract, I predict, within 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. Carl Pickens, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, they're going to be Bengals for years, and it's going to happen. The salary cap is going to continue going up. I'm not going to say they're going to give the Bengals a hometown discount, but I think the Bengals and Katie Blackburn they're going to find creative ways to make this work to where they can fit more people in. One of the problems, Jake, we had in that lost decade that we've talked about numerous times, we spent so much money on these skill position players, and they were phenomenal players. We let the trenches sort of deteriorate. I don't think the Bengals would do that this time. I think that they're going to continue to. They know the importance of that defensive line. We have the second highest paid defensive line in the NFL. That's a good thing, I think, because our turnaround can be traced to Joe Burrow and that stout defensive line with DJ Reader. And, of course, we're going to continue making our offensive line better also. But, yeah, this narrative about T. Higgins already going to Chicago, the Giants, we did bring up some things that Boomer said on his radio show. It's something to monitor. The Bengals Pulse doesn't want T. Higgins to leave Cincinnati. We want him to sign a long-term contract here.
And I could see it happening. I mean, I really do. And I think, not only have the Bengals have found ways to bring more money coming into the organization, but I don't think people realize how, I know because we're so good, people think that, well, they got to be strapped in the cap, but we're not. I mean, we're just around 50 million under the cap. We're like in the top 5 in the NFL. And this team has money, and they're going to find a way to get T. Higgins an extension, to get Joe Burrow an extension. And we talked about it last week too, having some these other guys that, we feel like the Bengals need to try to bring back. I think it's going to be tough. I think Jesse Bates is going to be a tough call. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with Joe Mixon. But I think as far as the band goes, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, as far as those 4 guys go, I think they're going to be Bengals for a long time. I just do. And you talked about the trenches, Maan. That entire starting D-line and that entire starting offensive line, all coming back, all still under contract. It's really just finding those other guys like the Von Bells and maybe possibly the Jermaine Pratts and maybe possibly the Hayden Hurst, maybe those guys, bringing some of those guys back. But it's going to be a very interesting offseason to see where the Bengals' priorities lie.
Jake, for a team that won 10 in a row, won 12 games in the regular season, they won 2 more in the playoffs, could have easily, they played one of their worst games during that stretch in the AFC Championship game, and they were right in it. They had 2020 game with 2 minutes left. When they had the ball, they could have easily won that game. For a team that was hot and as on a streak like the Bengals, there is a lot of work to do on this roster, and that's scary. That should be scary for the NFL. We can reinforce the trenches on that offensive line. We could get better depth there. This draft coming up in April, I don't see a lot of starters in that draft. They're going to come in, they're going to stockpile talent, and they're going to be like Dax Hill. Dax Hill will be a starter in year 2. I think the people that we draft will contribute next year and be starters the following year. The Bengals roster is solid. We need to definitely reinforce the trenches. One thing about that defensive line, Jake, I've been looking at our stats. We're going to go over our stats here in a few minutes. I did notice that not this past year, the year before, BJ Hill and Larry Ogunjobi combined for 14 and a half sacks from that position. That is huge. We had a big drop off in our sack numbers this year, and I'm going to trace it to that. There were penetrators. They were making the quarterback uncomfortable. He couldn't really step into the pocket. So guess who benefited? Hubbard and Hendrickson. Their sack numbers were down a little bit. Our defensive tackles this year accounted for 5 sacks instead of 14 and a half. We have got to get Carter. We have got to get maybe somebody in free agency. We got to get some pressure up the middle. That's going to be key, and that's going to make our defense even better.
Well, I could see that. I could see that coming in the draft too. I mean, like you said, this roster, Mon, is. I know I'm going to sound like a homer, but this roster is loaded. I mean, it's
Come
loaded.
on, Jake. You're not a homer, man.
I'm not a homer. I'm not a homer. Listen, this roster is loaded, though. It is truly a loaded roster. It's one of the best rosters in the NFL, and this could be one of those drafts where you're just really stockpiling depth. I mean, I don't really see there being a position where the Bengals need to be in any type of panic mode to go out and get a starter. Now, obviously, losing Jesse Bates, possibly. Losing Jermaine Pratt, possibly. Again, Hayden Hurst. If we don't re-sign Hayden Hurst, we're definitely going to have to draft a tight end. But again, I don't see a lot of holes in this roster, and I think this is a situation where the Bengals really can just take best player available in this draft and, like you said, just kind of restock the depth at some of these positions that we need. I mean, this Bengals team is loaded. They are loaded.
Yeah. Well, just
and
look at the team.
they're not strapped. They're not strapped money wise. That's the thing is they're not one of these teams that is way over the cap. The Bengals are almost $50 million under. Of course, that is because they're on Joe Burrow's rookie contract, but that's a big part of it. But still, this team is not strapped with a cash issue.
But depending on who you look at, what website you look at, it's between 38 and 43 million available in cap space. Of course, there are pending moves that could happen that could free up another 10, $15 million. If you look at the team that just won the Super Bowl, look at their draft class. The seventh round running back started for them. They have another wide receiver they drafted in the 3rd round. Very productive. Scored a touchdown tonight. That's something that I hope the Bengals can do. Let's get those hits in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. Let's get those guys to contribute. That's what's going to help the Bengals. Listen, I would love to see them. I know we're going to talk about the draft a lot over the next few months. We need another fast wide receiver. I'd like to see a running back that's a little bit more of a slasher, a home run threat. And of course, we really need to solve our tackle issue on the offensive line. Hopefully we can do that with free agency in the draft. But yeah, there are a lot of things that we need to do, but overall this roster is in good shape.
It is. And not only is the roster in good shape, but let's talk about this coaching staff, Mom, because again, there was a lot of worry of what was going to happen this offseason. Pitcher's back, Callahan's back. We don't know what's going to happen with Lou yet. Right now, the Eagles DC, I think, is the front runner for the Cardinals. You think the same thing. We talked about it off air.
Not anymore.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that, Mon. I don't believe that. I think right now he is still the front runner. And I think if it was Lou, this decision would have already been made. I really think he's a front runner. I think the Eagles OC is going to get the Colts job. I think their DC is going to get the Cardinals job. And I think Lou is back in Cincinnati next year. And if you can bring those 3 amigos back with this roster, look out NFL. Because as far as I'm concerned, the Bengals right now, if that all happens, the Bengals going into next season are the favorites, not only in the AFC, but possibly in the NFL.
Jake, I hope you're right. I'm happy about Pitcher returning. I'm happy about Callahan returning. I think our offensive staff is one of the best in football. I believe after tonight's Super Bowl that Eagles defensive coordinator I think he dropped the ball. Lou Anarumo has played the Kansas City Chiefs 4 times in his career as Bengals defensive coordinator, 3-1 against them. And yes, the Chiefs have scored. They've had some big plays against us, but overall, we've contained them. Last week, we held them to 23 points, which is 6 points less than their average. There's something about his defensive scheme that slows them down a little bit. You heard Travis Kelce and his brother on their podcast. Travis was just praising the Bengals defense as the best he's faced. I believe, and I want to be wrong, I think he's going to be announced the head coach of the Cardinals by Tuesday. Lou Anarumo is. And like I said, I want you to be right. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Lou's going to be the head coach.
I want it to be, Mon. I want it to be how it always is. I'm right, you're wrong. Right? That's
Okay.
that's how,
Jeez.
I just want it to go just like it always goes. I'm right, you're wrong, lose back. We're going to the Super Bowl next year. No, I'm just saying, this is what I'm saying, Mon, is you're not going to look at the Cardinals are not going to look at one game. They're not going to look at one game and say, okay, well, this is not our guy anymore because of this one game. Again, he's still going against a very good football team. Patrick Mahomes in a dome. I mean, you're still, again, I just, if Lou was the guy, I really think we'd already found that out. And I just don't think Lou is the guy. And I hope I'm right. I hope I'm right because, again, like I said, you bring Lou back, and I'm going to tell you, you bring Lou back, and you got a chance. You do have a chance to re-sign some of these defensive guys. I think already you're going to have a chance, but the Von Bells, the Jermaine Pratts, those guys love Lou Anarumo, and I think that opens up that door for those guys to come back even more than it already probably does.
Listened to a lot of podcasts since the Bengals lost in the championship game. There was a great one, Dave Lapham's podcast, In the Trenches. He had Jimmy Burrow on, Joe's dad, and it's just a good back and forth conversation. But he mentioned something about the word is out. Players want to stay in Cincinnati. The Bengals free agents want to stay in Cincinnati. We're about to talk about some of them. And other players want to come to Cincinnati. It was great to hear that. And, his son is obviously Joe Burrow, dialed in, has a lot of connections in the NFL. These guys talk. They talk at the Pro Bowl, whatever that thing was, which was actually fun to watch. And so, I expect
Mon,
the Bengals,
they tried harder. They tried harder in the flag football game than they have the last 5 years in the tackle game.
That was a lot of fun to watch. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed it.
There were harder hits in the flag football game than I've seen in the last 5 years when they were out there playing tackle. I mean, it's just crazy. Real quick, before we get to these team stats, again, free agent wise, Von Bell, Jermaine.
I have the
Pratt.
list right here. Want me to go through them all? I have the list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, give it to us.
Obviously, they have them ranked here per salary, what they made last year. Jesse Bates, obviously, Von Bell, Eli Apple, Hayden Hurst, Trey Flowers, Samaje Perine, quarterback Brandon Allen, Drew Sample, Clark Harris, Max Sharping, free safety, special teams, Demon Michael Thomas, Trent Taylor, wide receiver, Jalen Davis, cornerback, Fabian Moreau, I didn't know he was on our team, and Jermaine Pratt, and Travion Williams. I think that one's a mistake, but Jermaine Pratt and Travion Williams, those are the 15 free agents the Bengals have.
And again, you look through that list, there are definitely guys on there. We talked about this last show. I think I said Von Bell and Hayden Hurst, right? And you said Von Bell, Jermaine Pratt, as far as the guys that we think have to be guys that the Bengals re-sign. Go ahead, Mon. You want to say something?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That list was the unrestricted free agents. They do have a handful that are restricted that the Bengals have right of refusal. That's Joe Bocci, exclusive rights, Cal Adamitis, Clay Johnson, and Mitchell Wilcox. So they're pretty much going to be Bengals. It's going to be hard to pry them from the roster if the Bengals want them, of course. But the big ones were the unrestricted free agents.
I think all four of those guys probably are Bengals next year. The restricted guys, I think all four of those guys probably. But as far as those other 15, again, a lot of those guys are role players. I mean, again, we talked about this roster and how good it is and how well it's set up. You're only looking at a handful of starters. I'll tell you a sneaky one is Michael Thomas. He's a captain this year. He's our best special teams guy, I think. I mean, well, let me say this. I think Stanley Morgan and him are probably a toss up as far as the best special teams guys that we have. But Michael Thomas, a sneaky one. I don't know if they bring him back. He's getting up there age wise. But I'll tell you, man, really, just besides those handful of starters, the Bengals roster is in good shape. I mean, most of those 15 guys, like I said, they're role players. They're not guys that you're cringing like, oh my goodness, we got to sign these guys back. And like I said last week, I think Von Bell, I think Hayden Hurst, and I think Jermaine Pratt. I mean, if you can get those three guys back, man, that is doing some serious work if you can get those three guys back.
I agree with you. I hope that happens. I'm still holding out hope. I know it's not going to happen, but I'd like to see Jesse Bates come back. He plays, people, listen, he really came on in the playoffs. He actually had a pretty solid year for us. And him and Von Bell, they're the glue to that secondary. And, Dax Hill does have a bright future, but we still don't know what Dax Hill is. We know he's an elite athlete, but we just got to see him play. Another guy, Trey Flowers. Trey Flowers has come in and done really well. He sort of reinvigorated his career. And Samaje Perine, I would like to see him come back because he's been a solid player for us.
I'll tell you what, that Bengal running back room could look a lot different next year. A lot different. I mean, depending on what happens with Joe Mixon and Samaje and Travion, it's going to be a very interesting running back room next year. I think you might have 3 new running backs in that running back room, which would be very interesting. Like you said, you saw tonight, those running backs, they're not like those elite receivers and those other guys. I mean, you can find those running backs in the 6th and 7th round. I don't know. I see that running back room looking different next year.
There's been a lot of speculation about potentially Mixon. Mixon just is a solid locker room guy. He gives that energy. I'm 50-50 on that. I don't know how that's going to shake out. His salary does hurt. He makes a lot of money. And, Liel Collins coming off that injury, chronic back issues at $7+ million. We did talk about, you said that the Bengals are going to be focusing a lot on their own free agents. I do expect a couple medium splashes for outside players. And I think that's going to be on that offensive line and potentially maybe a defensive end. But they have got to get a veteran to help out on that right tackle spot. They have got to. It's a must. It's an absolute must. If they don't fix right tackle next year, that could be I don't want to say a critical roster flaw, but it's going to be something that could come back and really bite us big time.
Well, I think you got to draft one early, and I think you got to go get a guy in free agency. It doesn't have to be a dude. I feel comfortable in saying that, but you got to draft. You got to get one in those first couple rounds, and I think you got to go out and get a solid guy that can rotate in, because Adeniji, he's just not the guy. He's just not the guy.
Jake, I know it's really early. We haven't had the combine yet, but just real quick for this show, and we'll do it again over the next few. The first 4 picks, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Give me how you think it's going to shake out. Is it going to be 2 offensive linemen, 1 offensive lineman? Is it going to be a wide receiver? Is it going to be a tight end? I think out of the first 4 picks, I'm not going to go which one. There's going to be an offensive tackle.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a defensive end. There's going to be I'm going to call a wide receiver in the first 4 picks and a cornerback. The first 4 picks will be those positions.
I am going to agree with you except for one. I think it's going to be an offensive tackle. I think it's going to be a defensive back. I think it's going to be a tight end. And I think it is possibly going to be a wide receiver. I think that could be a sneaky pick. Pass rush. Listen, I'm a big pass rush guy, but I know Joseph Asai had that play at the end of the game, but you still got Joseph Asai. You still got Trey. You got some other guys that I mean, obviously Sam Hubbard, and you still got guys like Sample. I mean, I know those guys haven't quite turned out to be what we wanted them to yet, but I think the Bengals feel like that they are in good shape at the edge. And if they don't, I really could see them going out and getting an edge in free agency, maybe a solid guy in free agency. I just think offensive tackle, defensive back, tight end, and possibly wide receiver could be those first 4 picks. I better see an offensive tackle and a defensive back in there, especially if you don't re-sign Jesse Bates.
Jake, watching the Super Bowl tonight, the Philadelphia Eagles had over 70 sacks this year, and their offense and defensive line got them to the Super Bowl. But if you saw the Chiefs with Humphreys and their tackles, I think they had Tooney. They have 2 All-Pros on that roster, or maybe 3 on that offensive line. They really won that game in the second half. And we were texting back and forth. If the Bengals could get an offensive line, if they could fix their tackle positions, because that interior is pretty good, it's over, man. It's over. If they could get solidify those tackle spots and play smash mouth football and protect like those guys did, game over. It's done. And I agree. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen.
All right, real quick. Let's go over some statistics here. I think some of the ones that really jump out to me, and again, I'm a big believer in third down on offense. You got to stay on the field. You got to find a way to convert third downs. Offensively, the Bengals under 50% on third down conversions. That's not good. That is not good. I think we saw this season a lot of third and longs. Did it feel like that to you? I felt like a lot of third and longs this year really hampered us. Listen to this, Mom. Fourth down conversions this year, 3 for 12. 3 for 12 fourth down conversions. Again, not good. Not good. And I think, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, you broke up. You're breaking up a little bit, but you're asking about third and long. In the beginning of the year, absolutely, Jake. We did see that because remember, that's when that offensive line was solidifying. They were still struggling, trying to figure things out. Our rush attack, which, by the way, I'm always going to talk about that in a few minutes, 29th in the NFL. Well, we were getting 1 or 2 yards on first down, and it seemed like we were stuck second and long, third and long, and that's why we were 4-4 first part of the season. You are right, though. We had a lot of third and long. Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of third and longs. And defensively, third down, we did get off the field, did a very good job. Again, under right around 40%. So actually our defensively, we were better at the third down conversions and fourth down conversions on defense for us, for the opponent. The opponent was 9 of 23 on fourth down against us. So again, that bend but don't break defense of Lou Anarumo did a great job. 9 of 23 our defense was on fourth down. And then again, on third down, 84 conversions out of 212 third down. So our defense did a really good job. Offensively, we didn't match that very well. And I think that's where we have got to get better. When I look at team football, I look at third down first. Are you converting? Are you staying on the field on offense? Defensively, are you getting off the field on defense? We saw the defense getting off the field, but we didn't see the offense consistently putting together drives. And I think that's where we got to get better. And again, it starts, Mon. You and I have said it from I don't know how many weeks now. We got to run the football. We have got to run the football, Mon.
Jake, are you running a fever? You're like really complimenting the defense. Is everything all right? You need medicine?
Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. They don't lie.
Jake, listen, our fans that are listening to our show, our loyal fans, we appreciate all of you. I'm probably going to upset a couple of you now. I'm not here. I'm not going to bash Zach Taylor. It's hard to bash somebody that won 12 games, 14 counting the playoffs. I'm pissed off that he didn't get one vote during the NFL honors for Coach of the Year. Not even one vote, which is
That's
ridiculous.
a clown
That's another.
show.
I know
Joe
that's
Burrow
another story.
Joe Burrow in the MVP voting, Mon. It's a clown show.
He came in fourth.
It's a clown show, Mon. It's a clown show.
Back to the thing. Sometimes I question the play calling. Sometimes the flow of our offense is so bizarre. You remember our worst loss of the year was against the Browns. We ran the ball 10 times. Jake, in the AFC Championship game, our running backs had 13 touches. I mean, that's unacceptable. We had 17 rush attempts that game, 4 by Joe Burrow. 3 of them he was scrambling for his life, and 1 was a design run play. I know we're not a run-first team, but the Cincinnati Bengals need to run the ball at least 20, 25 times a game just to have that little bit of balance. Let me ask you this. I mean, I know it's all hypotheticals. If we had 10, 12 more rush plays against the Chiefs in that championship game, that'd have been 30, 40, 50 yards. That could have been 3 or 4 minutes off the clock. That could have been another 3 or 4 first downs. Maybe that's all it needed to happen for us to win that game. There was just not a flow, and it's just sometimes
you look at why did we deviate from the plan? The first time we played him in December, I was at that football game. We dominated the line of scrimmage.
35 rush attempts. 35 rush attempts in that game.
Samaje Perine ran up and down the field. Why did we deviate from that? I mean, again,
maybe the backup offensive lineman, maybe that was the reason. I don't know, but
I don't know.
You got to run the ball more than 13. You got to. It's just listen, I love you, Zach Taylor. I love you. I'm not trying to be negative Nelly here, but I think about that all the time. 13 rush attempts by our running backs in the AFC Championship game. But back to the stats.
Back to the stats. Well, again, I mean, these stats don't lie. The defense just played incredible this year. They really did. They played incredible, giving up only 32 touchdowns this year, while the offense scored 49 touchdowns. Offense scored 49. Defense gave up 32. Turnover ratio +6. Again, but wait, +6. I didn't mean. I don't know why I said that. Turnover ratio was in our favor. I just think offensively, got to be more consistent. Got to be more consistent on offense. And again, defensively, the numbers don't lie. This defense was really good. Man, just got to find a run game. Just got to find a run game and some consistency up front. And this Bengals offense has a potential to be just the best in the NFL. It really does.
If they don't plan on trying to find a solution to have a more consistent rush attack, they need to keep 8 wide receivers on the roster. Think about the wear and tear and the stress it puts on them. Chase missed some games. Higgins missed some games. Boyd missed some games. These guys are touching the ball 6, 8. I mean, they're phenomenal players, but sometimes they're taking a beating also because they become the extension of our running game, a little 5-yard pass here and there, and it's going to be tough on them. We just need to be more consistent running the ball. I think it's going to make us even more dangerous if we find a solution to that.
And I want to go back. I did say that right. They were +6. I thought I said that right.
Yeah, you're right.
+6, which was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th best in the NFL. The Bengals were +6 in the turnover ratio. San Francisco +13. +13. That is incredible. The Bengals +6. Again, that's top 6 in the NFL. Got to be more consistent on offense. Got to be more consistent.
Well, they were +6 on defense. Think about game 1 where they had 5 turnovers.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah, and so they, the defense was able to find a way to negate that and eventually go plus on that. And listen, not to split hairs, our defense is phenomenal. I did mention Kelsey's interview with his brother on that podcast. He said they were the most sound defense he's ever faced. They know where they need to be. They know what gaps they need to be in. He says they make it so hard for them. Talking about the Chiefs,
Yeah.
I loved hearing that. But you know what? I wish we had one Geno Atkins type, just somebody that could just take over a game. We have a couple guys, like Hendrickson 2 years ago was close to that. We need to get somebody that just has that wow to them, and hopefully we can eventually draft one that is that way.
Now, again, the NFL honors just an absolute joke. However, Joe Burrow did win the FedEx Air Player of the Year, who nobody cares. I mean, it's just, again, congratulations, Joe. But
There was other good news there.
We'll talk about it in a second. But
Yeah.
how does a guy like Joe Burrow end up fourth in MVP voting? That is such a joke. It's hysterical. It is absolutely hysterical. Once again, the NFL just completely goes right with the narrative that everybody thinks is going on right now. Patrick Mahomes wins it by a landslide, just absolutely ridiculous. And we did win the best celebration, which is really exciting. But again, just and like you said, how does Coach Taylor not get one vote? Are you serious right now? You have got to be. I don't even know what to say about it, but we did get some good news, and that is what we are going to finish the show on, because Maan, this summer we are going to celebrate another Bengal finally going into the Hall of Fame. Congratulations to Ken Riley. It is a long time coming. It should have happened years ago, which is a shame, but it is still very exciting, and I plan on being in Canton when that happens. But congratulations to Ken Riley and his family. Again, just a long time coming for the Rattler. How that guy has not been in the Hall of Fame years ago is unbelievable. 65 career interceptions, just an absolute beast. And Willie, Big Willie, I'm gonna tell you right now, dude, you're gonna be a Hall of Famer. You are a Hall of Famer. You should be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not sure how Willie did not get into the Hall of Fame this year, but it's got to be next year, right? It's got to be next year for Willie.
I hope it is next year for him, but I'm so happy for Ken Riley and his son.
Yes.
His son showed up on Bengal Jim's podcast or show, and was very appreciative of him and everything he's done to help get Ken Riley's name out there with the voters. We've said it a million times, Jake. You don't get 65 interceptions by accident. 65 is phenomenal, and he should have been in years ago. And it's a shame that he's not alive to celebrate this and enjoy it. But I know it does bring joy to his family that he's been recognized, well deserved. And you know what? Listen, there's so many other Bengal players from the 70s and 80s that were multiple All Pros, not Pro Bowlers, like Lamar Parrish. They don't even get discussed, and it's a shame. Like Corey Dillon he's not even in the room for a conversation. That blows my mind. Willie Anderson has made it to the finals. I'm hoping he gets in within the next 2 years. Ken Anderson needs to get in.
Yes,
I did listen to Dave Lapham. He had some other Jeff Hobson on, and Jeff Hobson was on another podcast, not Lapham's, but he hopes that Ken Anderson gets in within the next 2 years, and we'll see. But congratulations to Ken Riley, well deserved.
Yes, it's exciting.
I want to go to Canton. And I'm going to try to make that happen in August.
Well, once again, congratulations, Ken Riley. Well deserved. That was definitely, to me, that was the most exciting news of these last 2 weeks. But again, like I said, definitely a long time coming for the Rattler. And like you said, hopefully Willie gets in. His numbers stand up to everyone. And I think was Ken Riley the last of the top 10 interception leaders to get in? Wasn't he the last of the
He
top
was.
10?
He
Or
was.
I
You're
mean, that's
absolutely right. He was the last
terrible.
one.
That's terrible. And he's still like fifth, right? Is he like fifth all time still?
Yeah, yeah. Jake, I'll tell you this. I know the voters, when it's brought up, it makes them angry. It's the Bengals, small market. It's, the lost decade. All that stuff hurts the Bengals, and it shouldn't. It shouldn't hurt the Bengals. And I think they're paying for it. To only have two people in the Hall of Fame since their inception in 1968, that's unacceptable. There's so many
It's
other great
unbelievable.
players.
It's
Isaac
unbelievable.
Curtis can't even get in the discussion.
That's
He
crazy.
changed the way the game was played. And
Crazy.
it is what it is. But hey, we got two in. I think we'll have
Two in.
another two in within the next 2 or 3 years. And let's just keep this going. The current state of the Bengals is trending way upward. And let's get back to a Super Bowl. Let's get this team, let's get the offseason going in the right way.
Well, the last thing before we get out of here, I know I want to, Mon, how awesome would it be to see AJ Green sign a 1-day contract and retire a Cincinnati Bengal? How awesome would that be?
It would be great. I think it's going to happen. When he announced his retirement, I went on YouTube and somebody has a 16-minute clip of all of his touchdowns with the Bengals. It was fun to watch. Great memories.
Man.
Great memories. Great memories.
Well, congratulations to AJ Green as well on an incredible career. I know really he's part of that group that made it fun to be a Bengal fan again. That group was unbelievable and just an incredible stretch of 5 years that really put the Bengals back on the map, and AJ Green had a big part of that. So congratulations on an incredible career, AJ. All right, guys, that is another edition of the Bengals Pulse. If you liked this podcast, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Make sure you listen to us on all of the awesome podcast platforms, Apple, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Bengals_Pulse9 and on Instagram, the same without the @ Bengals_Pulse9. And as always, make sure you check out all the awesome podcasts right here on the Wincinnati Podcast Network. Maan, next week, we are going to be doing our team MVPs. Is that correct?
That's right.
Team
MVPs.
Team MVPs, position-wise. That is going to be very exciting. But once again, that is another edition of the Bengals Pulse. He is Maan. I am Jake. Hooday, Bengal fans. The offseason has begun. We will see you next week.
Y'all stay safe. Bye.